We're losing speed though as we're going higher, of course, but this is literally the altitude I already had to stop at the last time. I barely even reached this. We're instantly shooting past that, so that's some very, very good news there for a start, I would say. Alright everyone, hello and welcome back to another episode on Kerbal Space Program with me, Spacefish, and welcome back to the Kerbal Space Center. In the last episode, we took a rather big mission to, well, not a rather big mission, let me rephrase that. We took a mission to finally get our first space plane, or, well, for the matter for the time being, really, Kerbal plane going, and get some first experiments underway, because we were supposed to test out a certain set of engine at a certain altitude, at a certain speed, and, well, that finally prompted us to start building our first space plane. But unfortunately, it very much turned out that, well, what we had done in terms of actually building the plane was not quite sufficient. I spent ages actually trying to get up to the altitude that we needed to be at, and we did ultimately end up not quite reaching the target that we had set, or had been set, by the mission. So today, we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to re-engineer said plane, and hopefully we're going to have, like, find some way to actually make it work and get it up to the altitudes we need. I'm very sure that we will need more power. Potentially, we will need more lift somehow, which is going to be a very hard task, given that we don't really have much of any variability in terms of the wings we can use. But most certainly, it is one way or another going to be a good bit of a job actually getting this stuff underway. So, just quickly, though, before we get started, if you do happen to enjoy this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Would mean the absolute word to me. We are currently trying to hit 1k subscribers by the end of the year, so every single person is utterly important and I very much appreciate it. And of course, if you enjoy it, also make sure to hit that like button along the way. That said, we do still have our aircraft test concept out here landed on the runway, which you haven't recovered in the last episode, where we will go and do that now, and of course get a good bunch of money back on it. We got Jeb back on it, and let's go into the spaceplane hangar and to try and fix that design a bit. So, this right here should be it. We did actually get the full amount of money back right now, didn't we? That's kind of nice, I guess. It does make some sense. I mean, we did burn a bit of fuel, so I'd imagine that we would lose money on that, but apparently we didn't, I'm rather sure. But other than that, we got most of everything back. So this was what we were working with in the last episode, and it does absolutely not even closely make enough power. It is absolutely not even close to making enough power. We did also have a bit of an issue with steering, I think, because these things act as elevons, not as, well, what do you call them, elevators? Well, they don't allow me to roll the plane, basically, right? So, that is an issue. We certainly didn't have enough power. I mean, that's kind of the first main thing to start on, I suppose. I will have to rebuild this part. I'm going to have to see if I can duplicate pre-built parts somehow. But we're going to basically try, for the time being, actually just slapping on more engines. If we can... How do I turn this the way that I want? There we go. Okay, I would very much like to just put this on here, if possible. Does not seem possible. And that is also not really the alignment that I want on one of my engine blocks, so... that is more it. Okay, so we'll have to place this off-center, I guess. Gonna go and make that symmetrical regardless. Thing that I can't really see like this. So if this alignment is actually proper or not, because you can see right there that's not quite proper, and there is no way to make it quite proper. That's always beautiful. I just want this to be straight, please. Can we make that work, or is that like too much to ask? I suppose we could also do something a bit like that, you know. In that case, I would really appreciate if we could actually properly move that on top and not into the middle of what I designed there, but that also doesn't seem possible. Like, the thing is, I think the alignment is somewhat integral to this actually properly working and putting all the thrust towards the rear, not making the plane utterly unstable. I hope that's just going to work that way. Now, I'm not even sure that 2 are going to be enough, to be fair. We may even need more. I'm not quite sure what altitude did we want here. No. Where are my contracts here? We did want an altitude on this flight of 12,000 to 14,000 meters. I think we didn't even make 5,000 last time, so maybe we need to absolutely overdo this engine thing. I'm gonna have to see about that, I suppose. For the time being, let's go and add an engine to it. This one. Gonna slap that on. And we're going to go and have some more air intakes as well, of course, which we can find up here. Beautiful. Absolutely magnificent. So that's that. Then, I mean, an important question would be, can we actually make this work to a point where we can roll the plane? That would be great. I don't think we can, to be honest. Which really sucks, because, you know, rolling the plane is quite essential, but we did manage to somehow land this thing again, even without the roll, with the tail fin, and the way that that actually affects the roll on the plane. So, you know, somehow you can always make it work, I suppose. It's not really ideal, but you know, if you have to make it work, you can make it work. We could try something funky like that, but I'm not sure. I mean, the question also is, what I'm really wondering is if I, for example, go and deactivate this and make it be roll only, does that mean that it maybe works? Or we can maybe just test that out on the runway in a minute. This overall design wasn't too bad. It wasn't great, but it worked somewhat, I would say. Center of mass, center of lift thing. Center of lift being behind the center of mass. I think you ideally wanted that in front. Well, I mean, it kind of depends on the aerodynamic balance if you have it on front, I guess. It allows you to, yeah. Having it in front is sort of more ideal overall. I'd say like that, at least in this case. Simple fin. Does this add lift? It does. I mean, you could just do something funky, right? Add some canards up here with that basic fin. And yes, I know, I mean, it looks absolutely terrible. But it adds a tad bit of lift every time that we use this, right? And I would really like to move the center of lift a bit up front and generally generate a tad bit more in terms of lift. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, that is just very annoying at that point, honestly. But yeah, I mean, the question kind of being how we can kind of amp that up as much as possible. In terms of the lift generated. What in the world? What happened there just then? You see that all? I'm not sure how we got the center of lift that far up for a second there. But yeah, I mean, this is quite interesting because you can literally just do this, right? Which looks absolutely stupid. It does change based on the angle of how much lift is being generated. So that's an interesting point, I suppose. We can maybe at least replace these smaller ones with some bigger ones. Try and generate a tad bit more lift through this whole weird thing that we've got going on up front. It's super weird, don't get me wrong. And it is absolutely nothing that you should ever do to a plane in KSP, but for the purpose that I'm trying to go for right now, it feels like the right thing to do, because we can move the center of lift up front a bit, and we can generate more lift, which both are kind of important to achieving higher altitudes for us here, so that's why I'm kind of going with that. It's, yeah, it's absolutely stupid. I would totally never fault anyone for telling me that, but it is what it is. Now, what I would like to do is actually snap this onto a proper position on top of here, but you can see that it doesn't really quite like me doing this. So, not too happy with that. I just want a cage upon a cage, not a cage inside a cage, basically. If that makes sense. I suppose we could just stack on 2, but that would add additional unnecessary weight. What you could also do is that, but that would add unnecessary drag. Ugh. I mean, either solution isn't really pretty. Could just add another cage on the outside here. The one thing that I'm really... Wait, before we add on more engines, right? The one thing that I think is the more interesting question here, let's save this like that, is if these will actually roll now that I set them to roll only. Because if they don't, we may as well just place more engines here, because this stuff is going to be absolutely useless. Didn't really do anything for us. We've got the elements at the back here that work for us, so... yeah. You know. Let's try... I just launched like this for a quick second. Over 30 parts! You have got to be absolutely joking. The spaceplane hangar can... Right, we gotta upgrade something. Apparently we have to upgrade the spaceplane hangar because we already have that many parts to this thing. Or is it the runway? No. Okay, we will have to upgrade the spaceplane hangar for 225 grand, which is fine. We've got a bunch of money, I guess. That ups it to 255 parts in basic action groups. So that's nice. Nice little change of appearance right there. Absolutely beautiful. Let's go and actually launch that now and see if it works. And then we can go from there. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one way or another, if we can actually get that far up this time, because last time, you know, the thing is also, I spent, of course, like 30 minutes on that, and ended up not getting all the way up, so I would like to make sure that we do have enough power this time, and that may mean that I purposely kind of overbuild this thing a bit, in terms of adding more engines than I would really need, and you can see that absolutely does not do a thing for us. The interesting part being that these winglets actually seem to be doing a thing for us, so... I don't know what's wrong with these elements. I guess technically if we would disable this for roll, that still makes them roll. What do you mean? Yaw? Wait. That is so confusing. Q and E is not supposed to be roll in this game, is it? Oh, wait. Oh, right. I think I just set this up wrongly. I always assume that D and A is where you roll the plane, but it is in fact Q and E where you roll the plane, and it is A and D where you yaw the plane. That makes so much more sense. So this thing we deactivate for roll. This thing we have active for roll. So now if I press D and A, you can see that that tail fin moves. If I press Q and E, it doesn't. That makes way more sense. Not sure if I want these to move either. Probably not. Deactivate these for roll. These can be active for roll. I mean, we can worse things always change on flight. These things we do not need for roll. They can also be deactivated for yaw. This is only for pitch, really. This is not necessary for pitch. This is for pitch. It's not necessary for yaw. And this is only for yaw. So, if we press E and Q, these now work, which is beautiful. Deploy direction normal, deploy direction inverted, so we can do that if that doesn't work out as intended. D is that, and then that is my pitch. That is what I actually wanted things to do. Okay, that is great. So we can revert that to spaceplane hangar and actually configure things properly now. I guess I'm going to have to redo that. Yes, indeed I will. But that explains a lot. That really does explain a lot, I have to say. Very happy that we discovered that and what the actual issue was there. So these elements do very much work in the purposes I wanted to employ them in. I just absolutely didn't know that Q and E were, well, not yaw, but roll. So, yeah. Anyways, we want these back ones here to be pitch. These ones here should be yaw. These ones should be roll. And these ones should be pitch. Absolutely magnificent. Let's save it like that. That's that kind of configured and out of the way. So that means that these things we are going to keep, because that's now our roll. don't want to get rid of that, most certainly. We're gonna have to find out where to set up some more engines now, though. So, I'm kind of thinking here. Kinda. It's not great. Should be somewhat doable still. Somewhat like that. And that's, of course, with the symmetry on, ideally. Boom. This looks so weird. I wish there was, like, some sort of way for me to actually properly clip these things onto the wings. Like, I mean, it's sort of, you know, it's a bit of a makeshift solution. But it's fine. You know, it works. We'd love to change it, but it is what it is. So, we're going to go and add another set of engines up here. And then the question is going to be if this is going to be enough. I don't know, is the issue, right? I do absolutely not know. And I don't think there's any way for us to tell in terms of any calculations or anything that would be available to us. That's the wrong thing to put on. You know, we could also just put on like a solid fuel booster that shoots us up into the stratosphere, and then eventually we're going to get to the altitude we need, I suppose, but nah. I'm not sure I want to risk that. I don't know if this is good now, if it is not. What we could do, I suppose... Whoa! It's a large modular girder right there. What we could do, I suppose, is something like this, right? I don't like the solutions at all, but, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. It's literally what it is. So we're going to go and put some engines onto here. Going to give them some intakes right there. And we're going to hope that this concept now works, because this looks absolutely stupid. But it's got 4 times the engines and 4 times the engine power that we had before. Probably also got a lot more weight, so I hope we're still within the weight limits for the runway, because otherwise we're going to have to upgrade that. Let me check that. Can I see? Okay, you can see right there. So we're very much in the weight limits and the height, width, length, everything else limits. So that's beautiful. Design checklist. Not sure where that checklist is supposed to be at, but we don't care. And yeah. I mean, the roll works for a start, which is beautiful. We've got everything else kind of mapped, which is beautiful. Yeah, now we'll have to see how that very thing works. So, I guess I'll see you on the runway. Alright, everyone. So, welcome then to the runway. With this new, whatever this design may be called, insane amount of engines kind of thing. No spaceplane hangar over there, looking nice and beautiful. But let's get going slowly but surely then. I'm going to go bring up the liquid fuel and everything up here, because with that added amount of engine, I'm sure we're going to be burning through that fuel a whole lot quicker. But let's see how that one is going to go. I would really, honestly, I have to say, like to swap yaw and pitch. Is that something that we can change in the settings before we get going in terms of, like, key bindings? Can we even change key bindings in this game at all? Not quite sure I actually remember, to be fair. Doesn't look like it. Okay, we'll get started like that then. Gonna just use SAS. Gonna get things throttled up to the max. We're gonna brake for a quick second. Get all those engines going, and that's actually quite loud. And holy wow. That's quite a lot more kick than we had the first time, so, you know, that's something, I suppose. 50 meters a second already. Oh, wow. Okay, let's take off. Pretty nicely aerodynamically stable now, I have to say. I have to pitch this way less than I previously had to before we had all these things. I mean, surely that has to do with all the speed that we're gaining right now, but that's nice. That's beautiful. And now we can very nicely roll this thing. Awesome. This is going well. Look at that angle of climb, right? Wow. We've literally got an angle of attack of like 45 degrees now. We're still gaining speed. I can go to 50. Oh my god, look at this. This is beautiful. I love it. We're losing speed though as we're going higher, of course, but this is literally the altitude I already had to stop at the last time. I barely even reached this. We're instantly shooting past that, so that's some very, very good news there for a start, I would say. Question being, will we make the actual altitude that we will need in the end? I will lower that climbing angle here a tad bit, so we hopefully don't quite as quickly lose the speed. Fuel looks very fine to me. I have to say, overall. That is good news. The thing is, the airflow is really dying down here. And the speed that we need at that altitude is also quite significant. I mean, we're approaching the altitude. But the thing is, with the airflow dying down and these engines very much being dependent on the airflow, we're losing a whole lot of power. You can see the fuel flow is just lowering, and so is the thrust, just due to the fact that we are having such low airflow up here. Now, we're at 130 meters a second now, still ascending, which is good for a start. I'm not sure we'll be able to hit the speed. I'm quite convinced that we can hit the altitude here, which is great. Look at that, just a Kerbal sunrise again. Well, as we fly right into that, basically. The issue here is going to be, though... Oh my god, please tell me we're not going to stop 500 meters out from the target altitude. That would be absolutely annoying. Please keep climbing. Please keep climbing. Dude. Like, this would literally mean we would need one more set of engines, which I think is quite unacceptable, to be honest. So, we gotta keep this thing pointing upwards here. I want 12,000 meters now, please. Anything else is absolutely unacceptable. 100 meters a second surface speed is not really too much. We will have to take care of the speed once we actually get there. But please reach the altitude now. Oh my god, look at this. This is just so annoying. The airflow does actually get raised rather when we have a lower angle of attack, which makes sense, I guess, up here. Out there, it shouldn't change much of anything. Oh, maybe changes a bit of something. We're losing altitude. Oh my god. Okay, I will have to say that that is somewhat frustrating. I mean, you can see everything else works quite nicely, so that's something. But, oh, we're literally missing one set of engines, everyone. That is quite frustrating, isn't it? I was thinking, like, that literally had to happen, didn't it? I mean, you know, the thing is, it's very nice and maneuverable at this point. Well, mostly. The thing is that the atmosphere is quite thin, so it's not that well maneuverable, but it is generally inside the atmosphere quite nicely maneuverable. It's getting some good speed up, just not the amount of speed that we need, unfortunately, to get to the altitude and speed that we want. I think we're honestly probably just going to revert flight real quick to the spaceplane hangar. We're going to go and strap some more engines on this, and we're going to try again. I want to get this on this episode, so let's go and try and get that out of the way. We're going to go and put another set of modular girders on here. And put that there-ish. Does that work for collisions? It doesn't. Okay. I'm going to put another set on there. Just like that. And, well, that should somewhat work for collisions, I hope. Hopefully nothing's going to explode. Maybe we're just going to make sure. Alright. I know this glitchiness and everything being glitched into each other is absolutely terrible and does not look good at all. But unfortunately, that's the only way that we can mount engines currently. Which, you know, what do I do, I guess? What do I do? What we're maybe going to try, though, is just put a few more intakes on. Maybe that is going to help our airflow a bit for the engines, you know? I'm not quite sure that actually does something if that's not on the same block as the engine, but we're going to try. Maybe the on-top airflow is kind of going to keep our power up a bit more. Didn't save that design, unfortunately, so that's a bit of an issue. But it is what it is, I guess. Back to the launch pad. Well, not launch pad, but back to the airstrip, I suppose. Let's get this thing fired up again. And we're going to try for the exact same thing once more. Fuel should not be an issue, so we're just going to keep the contracts up and running there. And hopefully, with the on-top intakes and the extra engines, we can somehow make this a reality. I mean, this looks absolutely ridiculous at this point, but I guess it's an experimental platform or something, whatever you want to call it. Gonna go and gain a bit more surface speed at first, I think. And then once we're, like, maybe 250 or something meters a second, so we've got a bit of overshoot, maybe even 300. We're going to give it a bit more speed, because I want to try and make sure to have this sort of speed range when we get all the way up to that altitude, so I think that looks about fine, because we're about to actually break this sound barrier there, so, you know, probably about where we want to stop accelerating for the time being. And now we're going to point this puppy all the way up again, and we're going to hope that this mad, weird construction is enough to get us all the way up. Well, it is enough to get us all the way up, I'm quite convinced. But the question is going to be then, is it going to be enough to get us to the speed that we need? Because you can see we're losing surface speed, but of course, we will somewhat be able to regain some of that once we get to the altitude we want to be at, or at least that's what I hope. Oh, this is going to be a stretch. I don't know what to say about this anymore, everyone. Like, we are really, really having to try quite hard here to come even close to making this a reality. But it's looking like we're coming ever closer. Now, in terms of altitude, we're nearly there, which is a start. You can see that the airflow, of course, is going down a lot once more, and thus is the fuel flow and the efficiency of the engines and everything. I'm hoping that through the additional intakes we can maybe somehow make that work a bit better. You can also see we're starting to lose a lot of speed now. I have to start fighting to keep this stable. Now we're at the altitude that we wanted. So that's a start. Now we need the speed. Can we make the speed happen? That's the real question now. Without losing altitude, of course. Well, too much altitude at the very least. I don't think so. Oh, please! We're nearly there! That is just unfair! 150 meters a second of surface speed. I mean, what we could try is climb up to a higher altitude than the base level that we need, and then drop down from there a bit. And see if with the gained speed from that, we can somehow get into the parameters for this test. I'm not too convinced that we can get much higher than this currently. Come on. Come on, lady. Make it. Okay, that's 500 meters left. I don't think this is enough leeway, to be honest. Let's try and just dive for it and see how fast we can go. 150, 160, 170. I mean, we're faster than we were before, to be fair. It's not fast enough, though. Maybe we can try and do that again. No, I don't think. Like, we're so falling past that altitude barrier right now. No. I'm going to try this one more time, but I kind of have the feeling we're still going to be slightly off the target. With all these engines on here, I mean, this is insane, the amount of engines we even have on there already. There is no way, though, that we can make this, and you can see that we're not even going to get back to the altitude we just were at, most likely. Or at least, if we will be so slow in terms of surface speed that it's kind of going to equalize itself, most likely. Let's see. That's 600, so a tad bit higher. But if we do this now, in order to regain some of that speed, 40, 50, 60... Yep, no, exactly the same thing. Okay, that is somewhat frustrating. I suppose that we will unfortunately have to revert to Spaceplane Hangar again. We're nearly there, I guess. We're still struggling for power, which, given the amount of engines, I think is absolutely insane that that even comes out of my mouth. But we will need more engines. So we will put more engines on this thing in the next episode. Then unfortunately I have to end it off right here. We're already a bit over time, so I'll have to finish this one now. But next episode, we're going to strap a few more engines on this, finally get that done, fly back home. Should only take us a few minutes, I hope, and then we will look towards finally taking on some of the bigger tasks again. But with that said then, for today, this is going to be it right here. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. As usual, if you did, please make sure to hit that like button down below. That does always help out the channel a ton. And if you're new around here and haven't done so just yet, also please consider subscribing right down below, as well as hitting that bell icon in order to stay up to date on all the future upcoming episodes. all that out of the way though, as usual everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next episode very, very soon. Ciao.